Hello, I'm Pastor Keith Mozingo of Metropolitan Community Church of Baton Rouge. I want to thank you for clicking on the video of our worship message. Please go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/MCCBR to see the entire worship service, including prayers, special music, and communion. You're also welcome to join us every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. for worship service. Stay tuned after the message for information on how you can stay in touch with us.
So today we continue with our study of the Beatitudes. And I love this reading when we start. Remember, each week we read the first couple of verses, and the first couple of verses say that Jesus climbs up, and then those who followed Jesus climbed up with him. And so if we're watching for Jesus to climb up today, and we need to climb up a little bit, know that we are Jesus' followers, and we are ready to climb. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to climb up a little higher. You ready to go up a little higher? Anybody want to feel a little better today when you leave than when you came? You all right with me? Verses 7 and verses 8. Verse 7 says, you are blessed when you care. And then there's a period. You are blessed when you care. Well, now that just brings all sorts of things to mind. Care about yourself. Care about your things, the things you own. Care about those you love. Care about things going on in the world outside of your house. What do you care about? What do we all care about? And I will tell you that I have found in my own experience, sometimes we get caught up in caring about other people and forget to care for ourselves. But how many of us have learned through the years that we can care for other people and other things much better when we do care about ourselves? We have to care about ourselves. Now, my daddy used to say you could tell people that cared about themselves how they look. and maybe you still can. I don't know. And then maybe sometimes I care more about myself that day than other days. Because, some days I look a little better than other days. I found through life that you can tell what people truly care about by looking at two things. And not just looking at other people. In my own self, I can tell what I truly care about. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but you might want to go home and write it down. There are two ways you can measure what you really care about. Where you spend your money and where you spend your time. Yes. Those really are the measures. If you want to measure what you really, 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 really care about deep down, prioritize, look at where you spend your money, and look at where you spend your time. Because those are measurements. And you can measure those out. Because, you can look at your bank account, you know what's there, and you know what goes out and where you put it. And what you truly value in life is where you put your money and your time. And Lord knows how many of us today, I don't remember when I was a child, we were busy, but I don't remember us being like busy now. Maybe it was through a child's eyes, I just didn't notice. Maybe they were just as busy back then. But it certainly seems like we're busier today than we ever were. We're more mobile than we've ever been. We're more global than we've ever been. And it seems like we stay busier than we've ever been. And that helps us not always to take such good care of ourselves. We need to care about ourselves. We do need to care about others. And we do need to care about our things. But that's not where that verse stops. It's not just about blessed are you when you care and then leave you to figure it all out. But it goes farther. at the moment of being care-full. F-U-L-L, not just careful, like being cautious. But being careful, being full of care. At the moment you find yourself full of caring, you find yourselves cared for. Now think about that for a second. If you are being careful, if you have found yourself full of care for yourself and for others, you're spending your time and your money on yourself and others to make yourself better. I heard somebody before service say they were going to a yoga class this evening. Why? They want to feel better about themselves. They want to be in better shape inside and out, because it's my understanding yoga is not just about outside. It's inside, right? We want to take care of ourselves. And how many of us have been on a flight? And what do they say about, when they come on and tell you to put on your gas mask, your oxygen mask? I mean, if the plane starts going down, if you're traveling with someone who's disabled or a small child, they tell you to put that on yourself first and then put it on the one you're trying to help, because if you're trying to help them and you don't finish, then both of you are gone. But if you put it on yourself, you can revive that one next to you. We have to take care of ourselves. And then we can take care of others, and we can get full of taking of care. How in the world do we do that? Especially, how do we do that when we're not feeling so great about ourselves? I don't know about you, but some days I wake up and want to just turn over and say, whoops, not today. Just put this cover back over my face. I do not want to face the world today. Today is just not going to hit it. Today is just not going to get it. Today is just not what I want to see. I am not ready. I need more sleep. I need more time to get me ready. And sometimes, we can afford to do that to take care of ourselves, but sometimes we can't, because we do have to pay bills and we have to go to work and those kinds of things. How do we go about making ourselves full? How do we sate ourselves with care? One of the things that I find is that when we do good for somebody else, it helps us with ourselves. I've often told people when you want God to respond to you, you're praying about something for yourself and you don't seem to be getting an answer. Maybe it's time to quit bothering God with that and go pray for somebody else's needs. I was thinking about my Uncle William this past week. It's been a year since he passed away. He was the patriarch of our family and has, was really the patriarch, especially since my grandparents died. And that last year I went to his funeral at this time of year. And I was thinking about him and how he was a farmer. And he would sometimes, when the crops were drying up in the field, he would sometimes request prayer at church for it to rain. He'd say that he didn't wait to get to church to pray. He would pray, but you know what his personal prayer was every day? When he needed what he needed for his crops, he'd say, Lord, bless me. Bless us with some rain today. We need some rain. But if you don't bless me with rain today, bless my neighbors. Amen. Wasn't that something? Even if my crops dry up in the field, Lord, bless those around me. Bless those around me. I think that's one of the reasons God blessed him so much through all of his life. Somehow or another, there were good years and bad years, because that's the way it is with farming. But he prayed for others no matter what. Why are we doing this kind of stuff? Because we know how it feels to be on the receiving end of that. We know what it's like to be cared for. My friend Derek called me this morning from Australia, and he was telling me about how he needed something in his house. And a neighbor who he didn't even know very well, and whose only major interaction he's had is when the music's been too loud at his house and they came over and said, can you turn that down? Can you turn that down. So, not a lot of closeness is what I'm trying to tell you. But his refrigerator is gone, and he happened to mention it when he was out the other day, and his neighbor said, "Oh, well, we have two, and we're not using one of them. One of them's out here in the carport. Why don't you just take this one?" Not, "Why don't you buy this one, or would you?" They literally gave him one, and if I'm understanding him correctly, it's better than the one he had. Awesome. And he said, but here, listen to what he said. This morning he said, "I couldn't believe that they just gave me, and I almost didn't know how to receive such a nice gift. I didn't know how to take it." You know why? Because he's usually the one giving. And those of us that like to give to everybody else, we're not always the best receivers. But he needed one, and it was offered. He finally had to swallow and say thank you, and realize that they were blessed, and they're going to be more blessed by their giving to him. Amen. Blessed are you when you are careful. When we give, we get. I don't know how that works. It's a spiritual law. It's not a physical law. We'll go ahead and tell you that. You already know that too, right? It's not you can't just, if you give with your whole heart, when you give cheerfully, not because you have to, not because somebody is making you, but because you really, really, really want to give something. I was talking to one of you this week, and we were talking about how sometimes we volunteer to do things. There have been times when I had needs in my life, when I was at a loss, or I had a loss in my life. And one of the things that was advised to me was to go volunteer somewhere else. One of the things I've done is to volunteer at a pet shelter. And I want to tell you something. You know what my job was? You go volunteer at the pet shelter, you know what they'll give you the first thing? You got to clean out cages. Yeah, that's what you do. You clean out cages. Have you ever cleaned up a cage at the dog shelter? I'm just telling you, it doesn't smell good out there. It does not smell good. They gave me this big hose and said, you got to get the dogs out onto the yard, and then you got to go with it. So you first of all got to get food ready for the dogs, so the dogs will come out of the cages to eat and be in the yard. You got to make sure the yard is secure. And then you got this big old water hose that you got to go and spray poop everywhere. Right? And sometimes it flies into stuff and flies back over you. And, I'm just telling you. Yep. You get that poop out, and then there's this trough, this water trough that it goes out to, and all that kind of stuff. Not a very pleasant. I'm going to tell you, the first thing I did when I came home, before I even went in the house, was take off all my clothes. Because I smelled so bad, and put them right into the washing machine on my way to the shower. Yep. Right? But I cannot tell you how wonderful I felt after all of that. I felt so good. You know why? Because at the end of that, and then I took blankets over, and it was cold. I took blankets over there I had gone to and bought these blankets and took to the dogs, and I was able to put them a brand new blanket in their cage after it was cleaned out. And you know what? They were so thankful. They just, I got more puppy kisses. I got more loving that day. I'm going to just tell you what. I gave and I got, you said. I gave. Now, I didn't give so I could get. I didn't do it just for the purpose of getting. That was just one of the things that you reap rewards of, you see. It's just a spiritual law that when you give, how many of us have been to the nursing home to cheer somebody up, or been to a hospital room to cheer somebody up? How many of us have been to see somebody on their deathbed a year ago this month? Some of us would go over and see Rhonda Browning at the hospice, knowing her time was short. And how many of us would leave feeling better than we went? How many of us left laughing because she made us laugh? She was close to death. She was close to eternity, and we were there to encourage her, and we would leave encouraged. I can't explain this spiritual law. All I know is that when you are full of care, that's when you find yourself cared for. And that's what Jesus taught them that day. You don't know where to volunteer? Volunteer at the animal shelter or a nursing home, a homeless shelter. Volunteer to be on the suicide phone lines. I know some of you do that. Some of you have done all of these. I dare you to volunteer somewhere. I dare you. See how blessed you are when you come back with your testimony. Because while you are going to be a blessing to them, you're going to come back with a bigger blessing for yourself. Verse 8 says, blessed are you when your inside world, your heart and mind, are put right. Are put right. I kept thinking, well, now this is related because you can't truly give of yourself until you've got yourself under control, until you've cared for yourself. I kept thinking about the cares of life that like to pull us down and pull us under. Anybody felt swamped lately? Anyone felt stressed lately? Just the cares of life we're building. You're like, oh, Lord, I don't think I can take one more thing today. Some of us have felt that. We get caught up in all of that care of ourselves, not for ourselves, care of ourselves, the cares of life, and forget to care for ourselves and forget to reach out to those around us. Are you caring for yourself? And I don't mean in an egotistical sort of way, not where you feel like, well, I'm all that, so I've got to take care of me before I take care of anybody else. Right? Because we know some people like that, right? We talked about that last week. We know some people like that only take care of themselves. They are selfish. They are only takers. And they will sap all the energy out of you that you allow them. So I'm not saying you can't set up boundaries with people. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about giving of yourself. I'm talking about giving freely. And I want to tell you something else, though. It occurred to me this week because I saw a posting on Facebook from someone that said, I feel really unappreciated. And I'm the only one that's doing anything. And how many of us have found ourselves in that situation where we're the only one doing something about someone else's problem or their life, and they don't even appreciate it? And you know what I was thinking? You can't just stop doing it because they don't appreciate it. You don't do it for the appreciation. You do it because you are careful. Because you are full of care. Because you do what's the right thing. Not because of what you're going to get out of it. Because you sure are not always going to get from those people. It may come back in lots of other ways. From somewhere else. You may get back from that person or that entity, but that's not always the case. It usually comes back later somewhere else, some other way. And that's okay. How do you get your heart and your mind right? You want to stop the anger? You want to stop depression? You want to stop fear? You want to stop discomfort and addictions? Start by first caring for yourself. You gotta care. I am worth caring for. And I can't expect anybody else to care for me if I'm not caring for me. And then start caring for others. Care about yourself and then care about others. Get full of care. Then you'll start feeling cared for. Then you'll start seeing God outside of yourself because you're working on you. When you're caring for you, you start seeing things not just internally. Remember the yoga a while ago? But outside. And then, trust me, other people will start seeing that with you too. It's kind of hard to hide a light. Just saying. It's kind of hard to hide a light. There are some people that I love being around because it seems like no matter what's going on in their lives, they're just a bright light.
Amen.
They're just always on. I don't know how they do it. They're just, even when they're having their worst day seems to be better than some of my better days. They just shine right through it. That's a good thing. It means that they know how to take care of themselves. It means that they've got their heart and their mind right, that they know where that balance is of taking care of me to the point, not in an egotistical way, like I said, but to the point of being able to care for others. And maybe all that care from others is what keeps their energy going, that keeps their life on. Once we do that, once we start seeing outside of Mama's faith and Daddy's faith and the rites and the rituals and the ceremonies of the churches that we all grew up in. And I'm not saying those aren't wonderful things. There are things I still love about the church that I grew up in. I just can't go be there. I love the way they worship there. Some of you like the rites and rituals of your growing up church. But their focus is not what my focus is anymore.
Yes.
And what I may have to adjust my way of worship, I may have to adjust my way of looking at things because I can't go back to that mentality. I can't go back to where I'm not fully received and celebrated. Amen. If I've got to go and fight my way through to sit at the table so that I am considered worthy, then how much am I actually going to be able to care for anyone else? I'm not going to put myself in harm's way anymore. You say, well, you have to be strong not to do that. Yeah, you do. You really do. But you know what? When I came to the Metropolitan Community Church, one of the things I found was this. I believe in what we stand for. I believe in what we value as a denomination. Are we the only one? No. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying we're better than everybody else. So don't hear that. But I can't keep putting myself back in a situation where I'm not valued and I'm not celebrated so that I can get with the program and we can work together in this as a community. And that's what we're about here. That I can put, that's why we have atheists that come to this church. Not because they believe in Jesus, but they believe in what this church and this denomination does. And they want to be a part of a community that celebrates who they are. Amen. And says, I will be with you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to put you down. I'm going to let you work out all of that with your own Creator. Amen. I'm going to let you work all that out with your spirit world, with your spiritual life. I'm just going to hope you let me live mine out with mine.
Amen.
Ain't that something? I'm going to tell you what, when I grew up, they wouldn't say that. They would tell you, well, here's what the truth is. And this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and it's the only truth. And you better believe it this way. I saw this week Reverend Dr. Yvette Flunder over the Fellowship Church performed a wedding of two pastors. You may have seen it on Facebook. Two African-American females, same-sex wedding. Up in New Jersey this week. They're both ministers of churches. And one of them wanted her father to come and give her away. Although I think that's a horrible way of saying that. Yeah. We may need to rethink that. Because we're not property anymore.
Amen.
But you know what I'm saying. She wanted her father to walk her down the aisle. How about that? Is that better? Yes, that's better. I'm still learning too. Old habits die hard, right? We have to change our language though sometimes, as hard as it is, and correct ourselves too when we're wrong.
Yes.
Her father refused to come to the wedding because he told her she had believed a lie. That's not what the scripture said, and he would have no part of it. Who's losing here? He's losing. He's losing. Nobody said he had to believe like her. Nobody said he had to believe she was God's child, even though she is. He just can't see it. He's got on old glasses. Some really old glasses. Really old. Amen? Really old glasses. And if he was willing to do this, even if he kept those old glasses on, if he was just willing to do this, he might begin to see the wonderful child of God that his daughter is, and the wonderful work that she is doing, the blessing that she is to so many people. And I don't know if you saw the picture, but they said it was a 2-hour wedding, and the church was packed full. There were several hundred people there, and people were on their feet with their hands raised up, praising God while she was standing up. The 2 women were standing up there. They were having church at that wedding. I was like, go ahead with yourself. Just go ahead with your bad selves and have church up in your wedding. You know what that said to me? The Holy Spirit was present. Amen. The Holy Spirit was present. Danny was sitting at home aggravated. Children were up in the presence of God. Amen. Amazing. Amazing what we miss out on when we're not careful. Pastor, I thought I had all the answers. Oh, I thought I did too. Well, I was an English major, and when I got to graduate school, one of the first professors that I had said something about being an English major, that literature was a human's roadmap to truth. That it was humans' search for truth. That's why literature exists. That it's simply a search for truth. And I remember sitting there in that class, in all my Church of God piety, and all my Bible knowledge, because it was the Word and the only Word. Because, God can't speak anymore. God already, is contained in the leather. And I remember thinking that professor, who had multiple doctorate degrees and had studied for many, many years, how foolish he was. Because I thought, well, I can just tell him right now what the search can be over today. I really did. That was my first thought. I thought, well, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So if you're searching for truth, let me introduce you to Jesus. And that will just solve this right now. And then you won't even have a career, and you won't never have to search anymore through any other literature about humanity's search for truth, because I can just give it to you in one word. And that's it, the end. And it took years and years and years for me to take off those old glasses and realize that I did not have all of the truth. I only had part of the truth, you see. I didn't have it all. I only had part of it. Thought I knew the truth, but I didn't have it all. I had to learn to get comfortable with the questions. It's not always comfortable to have questions, is it? A friend called me this week after going through a relationship breakup and said, I just don't understand why. I said, you may not get a reason. You're going to have to learn to live with not knowing why. Why he's doing this. I don't know why he's doing this. I can't make any heads or tails out of any of it. And you may or may not ever know. I remember a breakup I had one time. I was music director at St. John's MCC in Raleigh, and I was dating this guy, and we were having, I mean, it was amazing. I was so excited. He was really, really hot. He was a hot guy. Just telling you. And I was like, whoo, I dated somebody way out of my league. I don't know how I managed this, but hey, I was just on, he was another minister's son. I was a minister's son. We had so much in common, and we went to church together and all this. And one day he just said to me, and I think it was on the phone, I think I had called and said something about us getting together. He's like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And that was pretty much the end of it. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? I needed a reason, you see, because I analyze and overanalyze and triple D, I just really analyze these things. What did I do? How did I screw up? Because of course it had to be my fault. And I wrote him like this 20-page letter, pouring my heart out and trying to ask all these questions. And weeks went by and I got no response. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not resting. I was not being careful. One day I got to church and there was a little envelope up right here. And I recognized the writing on it. So I knew I had my answer. And I opened it up before church started, which was probably a bad thing. You want to destroy your worship moment. Come face to face with real truth right before church. And all it said, it was one sentence. He said, "Dear Keith, sometimes there just isn't a reason. It's just the way things are." And his name, which I won't tell you, but I remember. That was not adequate for Keith. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So for 30 years now, I have had to live with the questions. Because there were no answers. There were no answers. A lot of my theology that I used to be so sure about now are questions. Now are questions. I want to tell you something. I had to move forward. I had to get past that not knowing all the answers. I had to get past that caring that I understood everything. But truly understanding what I did know. And caring for myself, getting me right, getting inside, getting my heart right, getting my center back, helping other people. And you know what happened when I started doing that? I started seeing God in you, and you, and you, and you. And you didn't believe all the way I did, and you didn't look the way I did, and you didn't grow up the way I did, and yet I began to see God outside of what I knew. Amen. And I began to get comfortable with the questions, you see. And when you can get comfortable with the questions, then you can start seeing God outside. In fact, it's not just outside, you start seeing God everywhere. You start seeing God in everybody, even people that are aggravating the fire out of you. You may not see it in that moment that they're aggravating you, but if you step back a minute, you start seeing God everywhere. That's being careful. That's getting everything right. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, what being blessed is all about, and climbing up with Jesus to that next level. Start by being careful if you want to be blessed today. So full you're running over and it's blessing everybody else around you. Then you'll start seeing God here and there.
Amen.
Again, thank you for watching our worship message video on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified of other video posts. You can also watch our worship service in its entirety by going to facebook.com/MCCBR. You can watch us live on Facebook at 11 a.m. Central every Sunday. Visit our webpage at mccbr.org, where you can find our calendar of events, as well as other information about our church and our denomination. Like our Facebook page so you can be notified of our other live events. Thank you again, and may you have a blessed week.
Whether here and now or another time, not even height or depth, whether strong or weak, in the face of the future or the powers that be, you are not separated.